Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we're going to return to a brewery who I haven't had anything from in quite some time, but they are a very good brewery. So we're going to go over to Edinburgh and have a taste of a beer from Innis Gunn, and this is the Irish Whiskey Cask, which for a period of time was one of their seasonal beers, and this guy is an oak aged stout, and it's actually the very first dark beer that I'm reviewing from Innis Gunn for you on here. They do a couple of different stout beers now, which is quite interesting, but the other ones I've reviewed for you were the original, the blonde, the pale ale, and I think I maybe reviewed another one beyond that, a Scottish pale ale, for you at one point as well. So it's quite cool to actually try a properly dark beer from these guys for the first time. So as is always the case with my beer reviews, I'll take you through a very kind of brief history of the company. It will only be a minute or two. If you want to get straight to the tasting, feel free to fast forward a minute or two. The brewery website's in the video description for you below, along with a link to the other reviews that I've done from these guys before, and there will be more added to that in the fairly near future. I've got 2 or 3 of these beers sitting around. But anyway, Innis Gunn are an independent specialist brewing company based in Edinburgh, as I said to you before, and they were founded back in 2003, originally as a joint venture with William Grant's Whisky Distilleries, but they became family owned in 2008. But the interesting thing was the first barrel aged beer that they did, of course they are very well known for their special barrel aging, but the very first barrel aged beer that they did was actually discovered by accident, because Grant's Whisky Distillery wanted to basically infuse their whisky casks with a very malty and a kind of big flavour beer, and of course they actually did that, but the custom made recipe was put into the casks and removed 30 days later, and you will see that on all their labels. They do tell you how many days the beer is actually aged for if you just look at the little bottom label there. But this beer was removed 30 days later and replaced with whiskey, which in itself gained a very good reputation. But the people at the Whisky Distillery were actually very curious about the beer, and so they decided to try it. So they contacted the master brewer at Innis Gunn, and they went and sampled it, and from there that is really where it came from. The beer had a very interesting and kind of infused taste, and that's really where Innis Gunn have taken off from. But it's a very interesting story and very kind of unique series of beers, if you like. So it's quite cool that these guys have grown quite a bit to become a big Scottish export. But anyway, to list a few of the other beers that you can get, this is one of the seasonal ones. So when I got this beer, the seasonal at the time was the rum cask, the Scottish pale ale, the spiced rum finish, and they also had a winter treacle porter as well. But they've done a whole host of different ones. I've seen a bourbon aged whiskey, you get Canada Day, they've done a whole host of things. Go and check out Rate Beer and Beer Advocate and you will see them. But I think the main core range for this brewery just now is the Toasted Oak IPA, the oak aged original, I believe it's called, the red labelled one, and they also have the rum finish as well, and they do a few various other seasonals and stuff like that. Check out the brewery website and you will get an idea of what's going on at the brewery. But anyway, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting here. So I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the artwork on this one. It is the same as most of the other ones. You can see there it's got a nice kind of green label. I'll just put the light down so it focuses a bit better, but as you can see this is a nice green label one. I think I'm going to try and steam the label off this guy, but it says Scottish Stout matured in rare Irish whisky barrels, handcrafted Scottish beer. It's got Nickel Rennie signature on the bottom, and the master brewer Douglas Gunn. So yeah, this one is aged for 60 days prior to release in the barrels. It says on the back, this award-winning bottle of Innis Gunn is back for a second year following its runaway success in 2012. This beer has been aged in rare oak barrels which were previously used to mature one of the great triple distilled Irish whiskies. The result of this unique maturation is a big, full flavoured beer with an unexpectedly warm finish. We really hope you like it. Serve at 4 to 6 degrees, which it is, and it's 7.4% on the alcohol content. So 7.4% stout, and we'll get this guy out and into the glass. As you can see, a nice smoky opening there. Smell the wood off this guy just as you're pouring it without even paying too much attention to it. Really cool to finally get a nice dark beer to review for you from these guys. Nice beige head on it, as you can see. The one downside, I guess, with Innis Gunn is that they do use clear bottles, except on the Toasted Oak IPA. I really think they should use dark bottles on their beers. I'll just bring up the light let you have a look at the colour of this one. As you can see, it's got a nice 1/2 to 3/4 finger beige head on there, very frothy, not bumpy in the slightest. If I hold this up to the light, it's a nice dark chestnut colour beer. Maybe rosewood is another good way to describe it, but it has a nice ruby tint to the edge. If I put my fingers behind it, it's not transparent, it's definitely hazy, but I guess with the colour of it you wouldn't really see anything through it anyway. But it looks really nice. There's a few small bubbles going up towards the bottom of the head there, but not really any carbonation kind of sticking to the outside of the glass, so it looks very nice. The head's just kind of fizzing away to be a very thin foamy layer now as well. But in terms of the aroma with this one, you've got a nice dark chocolatey malt on this one. I just realised I forgot to show you the bottle cap on this guy. You can see the standard Innis Gunn bottle cap with the star and the 3 whiskey barrels, always the standard one that they use there. But in terms of the aroma with this guy, a nice kind of roasted malty aroma coming out of this guy. Nice chocolate malts, but it's got the typical kind of underlying woody and vanilla notes that you get from Innis Gunn. But there's a nice dark sort of coffee-ish element to this one. A good bit of kind of dark chocolate. You can pick up the sweeter chocolate when you just kind of sugar it up a little bit like this. But there's a good bit of toasted aroma in this, roasted aroma. Smells a little bit like coffee, but it's very mild. I think the chocolatey kind of sweetness overtakes that on this. It's mainly a chocolatey sweetness, but there is a good dark roasted coffee character out of this one as well. There's a big bit of breadiness, and you can just pick out a little bit of the woody and vanilla notes that are typical of Innis Gunn. You can pick up just a wee bit of caramel sweetness too, but the interesting thing about this is it's the first beer I've smelled from Innis Gunn that the kind of wood and vanilla aromas aren't really the most prominent thing in the beer. But without further ado, let's get on and taste this guy, the Irish whiskey cask from Innis Gunn in Edinburgh. Slàinte. Now that's really nicely done. Very smooth on first impression. You've got a nice caramel note. The caramel actually comes out a little bit more in the flavour. But it's surprisingly sweet, this one. There's a nice bit of dark fruit actually coming out just on the end as well, but it's quite mild. But yeah, you've got a nice interesting malt base on this guy. You've got a sweet caramel that kind of lines the tongue, but there's a definite kind of breadiness that just blankets the tongue on this one. And on top of that, you've got a nice woody and nutty flavour. I'm not really picking up much vanilla in the way of this one, although perhaps the fruits that are coming out on the ends, just at the front of the tongue, you get this little oily bubble that moves towards the front of the tongue. You're getting some nice kind of dark fruits in there. Probably a kind of figgy or a sort of candied fruit flavour, but there might be some kind of vanilla traces in there, I think. Yeah, definitely. There's a nice sort of candied fruit flavour that comes towards the front of the tongue and just a little bubble, and you've got a nice kind of vanilla infused flavour with that. But that's typical of the Innis Gunn beers, a kind of nutty, oaky vanilla flavour on this one. Yeah, really nice beer this. You've got a really nice infused caramel malt base on this one. A bit of breadiness, as I say, that just kind of blankets the tongue. But around the edges, it is actually very smooth. There's not really much hop character to this. It is a very kind of malt forward beer. There maybe is just a little bit of the kind of toasted, roasted, slightly coffee-ish character around the edges of the tongue, but it's mainly a malty beer. It's a big malt forward beer. Yeah, a nice kind of sweet, just mild caramel flavour that blankets the tongue, a bit of bread underneath. There is a definite kind of chocolate sweetness to it. It is more of a kind of milky chocolate, but in the aftertaste, as the aftertaste builds up, just on the right and left back edges of the tongue, that's where you're getting a little bit of the roasted character coming out. And as I say, there's this kind of vanilla infused candied fruit, slightly figgy flavour that comes out, fruity flavour just at the front of the tongue. It's a very nice mix of flavours, this beer, really beautifully done. But yeah, really nice and very smooth. In terms of the mouthfeel, definitely mid-bodied. Very soft carbonation on it as well. You wouldn't really notice it. The alcohol is kind of very well hidden as well, but it's got a nice oily mouthfeel and almost slightly creamy, and it really suits the particular flavours you're getting out of it. That oily feel that it has helps bring out the kind of vanilla and fruity flavours, and you get just a little bit, the carbonation a little bit just helps bring out the sort of roasted elements around the edge of the tongue. But it's beautifully done, this beer. So anyway, this has been another really nice beer from Innis Gunn. I do have 2 or 3 more Innis Gunn beers to review for you, but it's been really cool to review one of their darker ones for you on the channel finally. But if you do happen to have tried this beer yourself, please let me know your own thoughts on it. Definitely give it a try if you do see it. I'm not sure if they do this one anymore, but it's a really beautiful beer, and I think I've had this bottle for a year or so now, and it definitely ages very well. You still get a lot of flavour out of it. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this review. Please let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comments section below, and as always, please like, subscribe, share. Always interesting to hear your comments and everything like that. And I hope you've enjoyed my Innis Gunn beer review, and there will be more in the future. Cheers.